Okay, so this is a summary video for the unit. And this unit really took us from the late 1800s through the early 1900s as the US has a change in foreign policy. The United States, for much of its existence, has been an isolationist country. If you look back at George Washington's farewell address and how he warned America about getting involved with other nations, it's just going to drag us down that path into war and being committed to things we don't necessarily want to be committed to. And so much of the first 100 years of America's history, we had stayed out of a lot of foreign wars. Most of the wars, well, you had the Civil Wars against ourselves, you had the Mexican American War, which was with our neighbor to the south. War of 1812 was with the British, but you really had very limited wars that the United States had been in. That's going to change in the late 1800s, early 1900s, as the United States starts really getting involved in exerting its influence overseas. And especially the United States is going to experiment in imperialism. The European nations have been doing it really for a lot of the late 1800s. They had been taking a lot of territory and it was helping their countries industrialize and expand. The United States was fortunate that we had such a huge continent that we could get the resources, a lot of the resources anyway, that we needed from the western part of the United States. But the late 1800s, early 1900s is when the United States starts experimenting with actually, let's go take over some territories. And it starts with the Spanish American War. And you need to take a look at yellow journalism and sensationalism and this idea of using propaganda to stir up American opinion against the war. Or I'm sorry, against Spain in this case. Then you need to take a look at how the Spanish American War starts, as well as what are the results of the Spanish American War. And we asked a big question: should we take the Philippines? Should we annex the Philippines or give it its independence or give it back to Spain? And that was a key question. And we end up annexing the Philippines. And understand that's going to create some problems. We also take, of course, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and some other places as well. Um, but the idea of American imperialism, ideally benevolent assimilation, was viewed as, yeah, we're going to be really good pro-democracy annexers, and our imperialism will look awesome because we'll help the people. But it doesn't really turn out that way, and in fact, it causes a lot of problems, and is going to lead to not only military deaths from the United States standpoint, but a decline in our reputation as well as as it inspires sympathy for communism in some of these countries, as well as creating inequality and instability that still exists today. And finally, imperialism damages America's reputation as the model and champion of democracy in the world. We're supposed to be this beacon of light, this city on a shining city on a hill that is where everybody can come for freedom and individual rights and responsibility. And now you have um, get off there. Anyway, I'm trying to get that off. Well, this basically summarizes the unit for you. And so hopefully that makes sense. And make sure you know all of your terms from this unit, as well as especially take a look at these maps and political cartoons on the side. Understand the importance of Teddy Roosevelt and Panama Canal. Oh, we didn't talk much about Panama Canal in this, but that was another kind of impact of imperialism as well. So, all right, that wraps it up for this unit, and prepare for your test.